Thank you, Nina and Ricky. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News on tonight's headlines. In a historic first, the Commission on Elections has announced a record-breaking tally. The National Board of Canvassers completed counting all 175 certificates of canvass in just 3 days, wrapping up late Thursday night. Voter turnout was also significant.
Kasi po, ang bilis po ng botohan, ang bilis po ng transmission.
And the news starts now. First tonight, back in early May, a 47-year-old driver lost control of his SUV and crashed through the main entrance of Ninoy Aquino International Airport, killing 2 people, injuring several others, and damaging airport facilities. The dramatic incident sparked questions about security and road safety at the country's busiest gateway. Now that driver has been released after posting 100,000 pesos in bail. He's been charged with reckless imprudence resulting in double homicide, multiple serious injuries, and property damage. According to the Aviation Security Group, a Pasay court granted his release Thursday night. He also underwent a medical exam at Pasay City General Hospital, clearing him of any visible injuries, and was handed over to his partner as the case moves forward. In a historic first, the COMELEC's National Board of Canvassers finished tallying all 175 certificates of canvass in just 3 days, wrapping up Thursday night. Voter turnout hit 82.2%, with 57.35 million Filipinos casting ballots out of nearly 69.7 million registrants.
Kasi po, ang bilis po ng botohan, ang bilis po ng transmission. Transmission po, pumapasok na ng 8 o'clock eh. Hindi po ba 8 o'clock, nasa mahigit ng 40-something%. Napakabilis po ng lahat. Lahat po nangyari sa gabi niyon. Lahat po inaandyan lahat. Kung merong ilang naging issue, naging problema, inabot lang ng umaga. Tsaka yung pang proclamation, katulad sa abroad, dinala. Isipin nyo yung Iran dinala ang transmission sa Kuwait para lang makapag-transmit. So yun po, technology talaga.
Leading the pack is re-electionist Senator Bongo, followed by former Senator Bam Aquino and Senator Bato de la Rosa. Other winners include Erwin Tulfo, Kiko Pangilinan, Rodante Marcoleta, Panfilo Lacson, Tito Soto, Pia Cayetano, Camille Villar, Lito Lapid, and Aimee Marcos. COMELEC Chairman George Erwin Garcia says the official proclamation for the 12 senators will be on Saturday, with party list group winners to be announced either Monday or Tuesday. Notably, the incoming Senate will feature several sibling pairs, including the Cayetanos, the Tulfos, Estrada, and Ejercito, and the Villars. Action stars Robin Padilla and Lito Lapid also secured seats alongside 4 returning senators and 4 re-electionists. The COMELEC is now working on the complex allocation of the 63 party list seats using the Carpio formula as mandated by law. This formula ensures representation for various sectors in the House of Representatives. A developing story from overseas. Despite his own suggestion for direct discussions, Russian President Vladimir Putin did not attend crucial peace talks with Ukraine and Turkey yesterday. The move has been described as disrespectful by Kiev, leaving the prospects for a resolution uncertain. Thomas I. Likeness for more.
When Putin proposed face-to-face talks earlier this week, Zelensky said he would be there. On Thursday, the Ukrainian president waited for his Russian counterpart to arrive. Instead, Putin sent a second-tier delegation. Ukraine's response? Well, it will send a team headed by its defense minister to meet with the Russians today. Zelensky says Putin's failure to show is disrespectful, and he says it's not clear whether talks with the Russian delegation will yield anything productive.
We need to understand what kind of level the Russian delegation is, and what mandate they have, and whether they can make any decisions. Because we all know who makes decisions in Russia.
French Foreign Minister Jean-Noël Barrot says the discussions had been Putin's idea, and he says Putin left Zelensky in the position of having no one in authority to talk to.
He's facing an empty chair, the chair of Vladimir Putin, who actually suggested direct discussions between Ukraine and Russia, but who is not present here in Turkey today, despite of the fact that President Trump expressed his willingness, availability to facilitate those discussions.
U.S. President Donald Trump doubts today's talks will yield any results. He says there'll be no movement until he and Putin meet. Trump, who is in the Middle East, says he had been prepared to make himself available.
You know, if something happened, I'd go on Friday if it was appropriate. But we have people right now negotiating, and I think that I just hope that Russia and Ukraine are able to do something.
So, what does it all come down to now? U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says this war will not be settled with guns and tanks. Talk is what will resolve it, he says. And Rubio says the U.S. is open to any ideas that will bring that about.
Whatever mechanism is outlined, whatever the process is that needs to happen, I mean, we are open to being constructive and helpful in any way we can to end the conflict. I will say this, and I'll repeat it, that there is no military solution to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. This war is going to end not through a military solution, but through a diplomatic one.
As both sides stare at the geopolitical chessboard, whose turn is it now? NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says the next move is up to Russia.
Ukraine is ready to commit to a ceasefire and immediate negotiations. That's absolutely clear. The ball is now clearly in Russia's court. They have to explain what they are doing, why they are here or not, and with what team or whatever. But let's make sure that we all understand that the ball is in their court. Ukraine is wanting to start the negotiations as soon as possible, and as I said before, it is thanks to the Americans and President Trump that the deadlock has been broken. It's now up to the Russians to make sure they take the next steps necessary.
On the streets of Ukraine, people in Kyiv say Russia does not want an end to the war. They say Putin is playing for time, adding they just don't believe he wants peace. Once the talks do begin, though, there are going to be major issues to bridge. Russia currently controls a little under 1/5 of Ukraine, and it says that territory is now formally part of Russia, a position that Ukraine and Western Europe do not accept. Ukraine has repeatedly said that it will never formally recognize Russian control over swaths of its territory. As far as a Russian demand that Ukraine reduce its military, officials in Kyiv say that agreeing to Ukrainian neutrality is a red line they will not cross. For now, no quick end to the fighting is on the horizon. Thomas I. Likeness, NET25 World News.
Meanwhile, here's more update on the Ukraine talks now happening in Turkey. Meanwhile, the first direct peace talks between Russia and Ukraine in more than 3 years lasted well under 2 hours, with no apparent sign of progress so far in narrowing the gap between the two sides. And that is according to a Ukrainian source, calling Moscow's demands non-starters. Delegations from the warring sides met in Turkey on Friday, their first face-to-face meeting since March 2022, the month after Russia's invasion of its neighbor. The chasm between the two sides was quickly apparent, according to the Ukrainian source who told Reuters that Russia's demands were detached from reality and go far beyond anything that was previously discussed. They included non-starters and non-constructive conditions. There was no immediate word from the Russian side. Expectations for a major breakthrough, already low, were dented further on Thursday when Trump, winding up a Middle East tour, said there would be no movement without a meeting between himself and Russia's President Vladimir Putin.
Well, I think it's time for us to just do it. I said, they all said Putin was going and Zelensky was going, and I said, if I don't go, I guarantee Putin's not going. And he didn't go, and I understand that, but we're going to get it. We're going to get it done. We got to get it done. 5,000 young people are being killed every single week on average, and we're going to get it done.
Our number one priority is a full, unconditional, and honest ceasefire. This must happen immediately to stop the killing and create a solid basis for diplomacy, first of all. And if the Russian representatives in Istanbul today cannot even agree to that, to ceasefire, to this clearly necessary first step, then it will be 100% clear that Putin continues to undermine diplomacy. If that's not the case, there must be at least some result today, starting with the United States. President Trump wants to end this war. We need to keep working closely with President and stay as coordinated as possible. Long-term U.S. support is also essential. An American backstop is needed. It's important that we all work together on every level to make that happen.
U.S. President Donald Trump is making headlines again, this time from the Middle East. In his latest high-profile visit, President Trump made a direct appeal to Qatar, asking for help in brokering a new agreement with Iran to rein in its fast-advancing nuclear program. At a state dinner in Doha, hosted by the Qatari Emir, Trump called the situation with Iran perilous and made this plea.
And I hope you can help me with the Iran situation, because it's a perilous situation, and we want to do the right thing. We want to do something that's going to save maybe millions of lives, because things like that get started and they get out of control. I've seen it over and over again. They go to war and things get out of control, and we're not going to let that happen.
Qatar has long played a behind-the-scenes role between the U.S. and Iran, including during sensitive talks involving Hamas. And with the Israel-Hamas conflict still raging, President Trump is hoping to tap into Qatar's diplomatic reach to ease rising tensions with Tehran.
Because we want to see Iran do well, thrive, and be successful, and everybody be happy. I know many Iranians living in New York and Washington, D.C., and they're great people, and we want to have this end peacefully, not horribly. So I just want to thank Your Highness for that act of help.
In fact, Trump told attendees that Iran has sort of agreed to the terms of a new nuclear deal with the U.S., calling the recent negotiations held just days ago serious talks aimed at long-term peace.
Iran has sort of agreed to the terms. They're not going to make, I call it in a friendly way, nuclear dust. We're not going to be making any nuclear dust in Iran. And we've been strong. I want them to succeed. I want them to end up being a great country. And I think we're getting close to maybe doing a deal without having to do this. There's two steps. There's a very, very nice step, and there's a violent step.
But not everyone welcomed the president's remarks. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian fired back, saying Iran won't be intimidated.
We will not bow down to any bully. This is not just my word, but all women and youth, elites, and those who are zealous will not bow down to any power. Trump thought he could come here and shout slogans, that we would then be afraid and fall short in the face of his promises. We will not trade the honor and pride of this country with anyone. Did we destroy 60,000 women and children in Gaza in a year under the bombs and missiles they had? Did we cut off their access to food, water, and medicine? Are we a danger?
Meanwhile, in another key stop, President Trump earlier met with Syria's newly appointed president during his time in Riyadh, and the White House described it as a short pull-aside, but Trump later gave his own review.
How did you find the Syrian president?
Right. I think very good. Young, attractive guy, coffee eye. Yeah. Stroke pass. Or stroke pass, spider.
Does that burn you?
He's got a real shot at.
And as Trump wraps up his Middle East tour, all eyes are now on Tehran to see if Iran is truly ready to make concessions on its nuclear program in exchange for the lifting of U.S. sanctions. President Donald Trump's Gulf tour rolled into the United Arab Emirates, and it came with a major windfall. The former president welcomed $200 billion in new deals, including a major AI partnership and a fresh Boeing order, just a day after scoring the company's largest ever jet deal in Qatar. Take a look.
Donald Trump's Gulf tour took him to the United Arab Emirates on Thursday, and the visit was marked by the signing of more deals, valued in all at $200 billion. That followed a pledge by the UAE in March to invest some $1.4 trillion in the US over 10 years. Trump hailed that deal in a meeting with country President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan.
And all I could say is thank you very much. We will work very hard to deserve it.
Among the deals announced Thursday was another order for Boeing. UAE airline Etihad said it would buy 28 big jets from the aerospace giant, including 787s and 777s. That followed news of Boeing's biggest ever order for wide-body jets a day before, when Trump visited Qatar. Also finalized in Abu Dhabi was a plan for the largest AI campus outside the US to be built in the UAE. Reuters sources said the deal would give the country expanded access to AI chips from NVIDIA. Company boss Jensen Huang was seen conversing with Trump at the palace on Thursday. A White House fact sheet said other deals included a partnership between US and UAE oil firms to expand oil and gas production. It valued that agreement at $60 billion. However, US lawmakers, including Bernie Sanders, on Thursday sought to block further arms sales to the country. That's over allegations that UAE forces are involved in Sudan's civil war.
Tonight, we have a rare and disturbing look inside a high-security prison in El Salvador. And these are Venezuelan detainees sent there by the U.S. back in March. Now, footage recently released shows them pleading for freedom and signaling for help. Take a look.
This is a rare glimpse of Venezuelan detainees held in a high-security prison in El Salvador since being sent there by the U.S. in March. They're shouting freedom and seen using a hand signal for help. Video of the prison was published by the far-right One America News Network after it recently toured the wing with former U.S. lawmaker Matt Gaetz and Congresswoman Ana Paulina Luna. The Trump administration alleges the men being held here are members of the gang Tren de Aragua. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security did not comment on the video footage, and the White House did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Trump invoked the 1798 Alien Enemies Act on March 15th to rapidly deport alleged Venezuelan gang members. While Trump's proclamation was blocked later that day, 2 planes carrying Venezuelans continued on to El Salvador. Family members, many of whom deny the gang allegations, have been unable to reach the men. Some said they recognized their loved ones in the video. The U.S. has not released a list of the names of the deportees.
2 climbers, one from India and another from the Philippines, have become the first fatalities of this year's Mount Everest climbing season. Filipino mountaineer Philip P.J. Santiago II, 45 years old, died at Camp 4 while preparing for his final ascent. A day later, Indian climber Subrata Ghosh, also 45, died just below the Hillary Step while descending from the summit. Both were part of expeditions by Nepal's Snowy Horizon Treks. Recovery efforts are ongoing but difficult due to the extreme altitude. Over 300 people have died on Everest since expeditions began. 2 people have died in a wildfire that is sweeping through the central Canadian province of Manitoba. Now, several other provinces in Canada are also battling wildfires that are threatening communities. Jay Suarez has more.
Authorities found the 2 victims in the small Manitoba community of Lac du Bonnet, about 100 kilometers north of Winnipeg. They had apparently been trapped in their home by the fire, unable to escape the flames. The inferno prevented emergency workers from reaching them. The flames have forced about 1,000 people to flee their homes. 24 wildfires are burning in Manitoba, 5 of them out of control. Across the country, firefighters are battling 92 blazes in 5 provinces: British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Ontario. Dry conditions along with high winds are hampering efforts to contain the fires. in Saskatchewan. Villages in the province's north have been put on evacuation alert, and in northern Ontario, there are both evacuation and travel alerts in some areas. British Columbia has 28 wildfires, 9 of them out of control. As the country prepares for a long holiday weekend, fire bans have been issued and camping has been banned in some regions. Some provincial parks have been closed. This year is already shaping up to be a bad one for wildfires in Canada, and the lack of rainfall is only making conditions worse. Jay Suarez for NET25 World News.
For years, Argentina's Perito Moreno Glacier stood as an exception, maintaining its size despite a warming world. However, new observations suggest that even this seemingly stable giant is now feeling the effects of climate change. We'll take you to Patagonia, where scientists are alarmed by the growing scale of ice calving from this iconic landmark. Take a look.
A deep rumble, and then a crash. For years, visitors have watched in awe as blocks of ice, some the size of a 20-story building, collapse from Argentina's Perito Moreno Glacier. But recently, the size of the ice chunks breaking off, a process called calving, has alarmed local guides and glaciologists. The face of the Perito Moreno Glacier had for decades held more or less steady, bucking the trend in recent decades by maintaining its mass, even as warmer climates spurred faster glacial melting worldwide. But Pablo Quinteros, an official tourist guide at Los Glaciares National Park, says there's been a recent shift. He says it was once rare to see icebergs of this size breaking off, but in the last 4 to 6 years, it's become a common sight. Glaciologist Lucas Ruiz says the face of the Perito Moreno Glacier, which flows down Andean peaks into Lake Argentina, had unusually been more or less in the same position for 80 years.
The thing with Perito Moreno is that it took a while, so to speak, to feel the effects of climate change. However, the changes we are seeing today clearly show that this balance of forces, or this balance of mass between the upper part that accumulates snow and the lower part that melts ice and calves icebergs, has been disrupted. And today the glacier is losing both in thickness and area.
He said that the glacier could rebound as it has done before, but that for the moment, it was losing between 3 and 6.5 feet of water equivalent per year. If not reversed, Ruiz says it could lead to a situation where the loss accelerates. For now, the glacier remains a spectacle for travelers like Giovanna Machado, who came from Brazil to see it up close.
It's insane. The most incredible thing I've ever seen in my life. Even in photos, you can't grasp its immensity, but it's perfect. It's amazing. I think everyone should come here at least once in their life.
And the news continues here on NET25. We'll be right back. A worrying sign for the world's third largest economy, Japan's GDP shrank in the first quarter of this year. And analysts say this slowdown occurred even before U.S. President Trump's trade policies fully take effect. Now, the latest figures underscore the precarious position Japan finds itself in as potential tariffs loom large.
Japan's economy shrank more than expected over the March quarter. GDP contracted by 0.7%, or more than 3 times the drop analysts had forecast. The downturn was driven by stagnant private consumption and exports, and the numbers suggest the economy was losing steam even before Donald Trump's tariffs kicked in. The US president has imposed 10% duties on most countries, with Japan to face 24% levies from July unless it can strike a deal before then. Trump himself has suggested that could be possible.
From Japan, I'm getting along very well with Japan. We're very close to a deal.
But Trump has also put 25% tariffs on US car imports, a critical sector for Japan. And prospects for an agreement with Washington remain very uncertain. With exports and consumption weak, economists say it's not clear what can drive growth. That could put Tokyo under pressure to step in. Some lawmakers have already urged Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba to cut taxes or provide more stimulus. However, the government says there are no such plans for now. The trade war also leaves the Bank of Japan with a difficult decision. It had been expected to do more interest rate increases, but that could change if a Trump-induced slowdown gathers momentum.
And we have a significant development out of Thailand. Remember that devastating building collapse in Bangkok back in March, triggered by that powerful earthquake in neighboring Myanmar? Well, today, a major construction tycoon and 14 others have surrendered to police. Premchai Karnasuda, the president of Italian Thai Development, and 14 other executives surrendered to police over the collapse of the 30-story State Audit Office tower last March. That building fell during a 7.7 magnitude earthquake centered in Myanmar, killing 92 workers. 4 remain missing. Metropolitan Police Bureau Deputy Commissioner Nopasin Punsawat told reporters that expert reviews found the tower's architectural design flouted ministerial regulations. Its concrete and steel were substandard, and engineering documents carried forged signatures. All 15 suspects deny negligence and breaching construction rules, and 2 more individuals are due to report on Monday. Interestingly, this isn't the first time Premchai has been in the headlines. He was convicted and jailed in 2021 for poaching protected wildlife, including a black Indo-Chinese leopard in a national sanctuary. Italian Thai Development says it's fully cooperating as the case moves to pre-trial hearings. In a world where feelings of isolation can often take hold, a recent event in Europe offered a powerful antidote. Members of the Iglesia ni Cristo, the Church of Christ, convened for their Unity Games, a vibrant display of how shared activities can strengthen bonds and promote well-being. Take a look.
From across the continent, members of the Iglesia ni Cristo Church of Christ gathered for an unforgettable Unity Games. An inspiring event where INC members from different parts of Europe came together not only to compete but to connect.
Well, the amazing atmosphere in every single sports game. It can be basketball, volleyball, badminton, darts, like all the activities planned in this amazing. I had a great time.
Ahora mismo me siento muy cansada porque acabamos de jugar, pero me siento muy feliz porque hemos ganado. Pero aparte de haber ganado, me alegro de haber podido jugar con otros distritos y me siento muy afortunada de formar parte de esta gran actividad y de poder representar nuestro distrito. Doy las gracias a la administración por haber lanzado la actividad de Unity Games Europe Edition.
Whether on the basketball court, the volleyball arena, or at the chess and dart stations, the spirit of camaraderie was undeniable. Each game was more than just a match. It was a celebration of unity and brotherhood.
Also es ist auf jeden Fall sehr spaßig hier zu sehen, wie alle Districts von ganz Europa hier versammelt sind und wie hier alle vereint sind, um verschiedene Sportarten zu spielen und auch zu unterstützen, anzufeuern, und es motiviert auch einen, wieder mal andere zu sehen, wie die spielen und einfach Spaß dabei zu haben.
Well, the last couple of months I've been practicing at home a lot. Been getting my darts ready and small preparation here before the game, but it's maybe a little short.
In a world where isolation has become far too common, events like these remind us of the deep value of human connection. Physically, it gets us moving. Mentally, it sharpens focus and relieves stress. It builds networks and strengthens the bonds that hold us together. This wasn't just a day of fun and games. It was a moment where borders were crossed, friendships were formed, and hearts were united in love and purpose. Together, we showed that no matter where we come from, the human connection and friendship bonds are still very much the social values needed for better well-being. Today's sporting event is a powerful reminder that when we come together as one, the joy we share is multiplied connecting us emotionally and empowering the mind and body. Reporting from Barcelona, Spain, this is Jericho Sison for NET25 World News.
And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Have a great weekend. Good night.